I'm Robin Clevett, welcome to my channel. So I'm out on a garden room and we're really moving on with this project. We're just waiting for the windows to be installed. Once they're installed, then we're going to get on and do all of the cladding. And in this case, the client is interested in going for a cedar, a really nice quality cedar. But I do a lot of cladding. You know, I'm always out doing different types of cladding, from oak feather edge cladding, treated feather edge cladding, and thermo wood cladding. These are all materials that I use on a regular basis. So here, for example, this is a thermo wood. If you've not seen thermo wood, they treat it with steam. They take all the moisture out of it, then they steam treat it, and it makes it incredibly good at protecting from fungal attack and all the rest of it and rot. The only thing is, obviously, any timber that you put up outside without any kind of UV protection is going to silver down. Now, in the case of my garden room here, that wasn't a problem because I actually wanted the whole thing to eventually patina and silver down, a little bit like these steel gutters and the doors that I had made in a particular colour. Even this deck board, we had a silver sort of deck, so it would all look like it aged together. However, a lot of my customers and clients, they really don't want the silvering. They want to maintain that beautiful rich colour of cladding, especially in the case of cedar. So I've been looking at a couple of products, both from OSMO. One's a UV protection oil and one is a stain, and I've got some comparisons I want to do with that on different materials. Now, for the comparison, I'm using one with an oak tint and an oak stain, if you like, so we can see the difference. And I think that's quite helpful actually, by looking at different materials with the different products on to get an idea of just how they look. So I've basically been trying out two products from OSMO, and the reason why I'm trying them out is because, as I mentioned earlier, one of the jobs that we've got coming up, a particular client wants to make sure they can maintain that lovely colour and look of their cladding, and we're going to go for a cedar cladding for those guys. And the thing is, when I actually spoke with the client, we had a little chat about it, she was sort of intimating to me that she actually wanted to have a little bit of a sheen to it as well. So I think her imagination was varnish, if you know what I mean, because people, or the layman, would turn to me and say, oh, it'd be lovely if it's varnish. But actually, I don't think if you gave them the option of varnish and told them all the problems that go with varnish, they would want that. So sometimes you have to be a little bit like a detective to try and eke out exactly what they've seen or what they like. Or equally, as someone who works with wood, you need to kind of suggest or prescribe to them a product which will give them sort of really long lasting durability and recoatability as well, which is really important for sort of maintaining something. And the other thing about the UK, we get the climate here, which can be one day 29 and dry and sunny and everything's baking, and the next day you can have clouds, thunderstorms, and you know, your material is going to be dry as hell one day and really baked, and the next day pouring with rain. So we have a wild climate here that we have to deal with. So I think it's really important, if you're going to spend money, good money on material now, what with the shortages, and cladding especially has gone up so much, let's look after it, let's spend a bit of time on it. So the two products that I've been working with, I've got the UV protection oil and the natural oil wood stain. And I needed to find out for myself just exactly what I thought was best. Now, it's not like competition, which is best and which isn't, because what I've done, I've coated various different materials. Now, I've got an oak stain and I've also got an oak tinted oil. This is the UV protection oil, because I thought it's only, it would be interesting to see, because I can also see the effect that the stain, the oil which is tinted in oak, has on the material. So this section here, for example, is a thermo wood, and the thermo wood is a material, when you treat it as well with oil, potentially it's going to outlive me. And on the two sides, we've got the stain, and then we've got the tint or the oil. So you can see the effect that it's had from this material. The stain is a nice flat finish. Okay, it's an oil, but it's much more of a stain. It's quite a deep even colour right through. Whereas the tint, you still get so much figure coming through from the grain. So that was the thermo wood. That's what it looks like when it's in the white. We call it the white, when it's just as it comes. And that's with the two products. Now, here are two bits of cedar, the same bits of cedar. So that's the back bare faces. That's what it looks like, you know, when you get it. And again, that's the stain. And this is the oil with the tint. I know this is an oak colour, and you wouldn't necessarily want to put an oak stain, you might do, on a cedar, but it's just really helpful to see the effect that it has on different materials. And then we've actually got a piece of oak. Now this is a piece of American white oak, very common here, and American white oak is very, very uniform in colour, and you can again see the stain there, and you can see the UV protection oil on this side. Now the UV protection oil, you can clearly see that the colour, the natural grain underneath is just there. So basically the tint is just assisting the oil in giving it something slightly different from the stain, which is more obliterating, if you like. And that's effectively what that looked like. Now you wouldn't necessarily want an American white oak cladded building because it doesn't work very well, believe it or not. Green oak left untreated works a lot better than good American white oak treated. But I just thought I wanted to give you an example of just what oak looks like. So while I was down at the mill, I saw that we had a few samples of other material which I thought would be interesting to try as we go into this trouble. So here is a slab of sequoia. So sequoia is an amazing timber. If I just show you the colour of it, and again, I've used the same products over the top of it. So this is what it's like. This is just a sawn side. You can see that it's got some discoloration from liquid water where it's been stacking and the rain's got through, and you get all these lovely stains with it. So on this side, I've actually face planed off half of it. So say here back, and then I've left the sawn side there, because when you face plane something off and you stain it, or you polish it, or you oil it, you're going to get a completely different look to the sawn material. You can clearly see the difference between the stained side and then the oil side, the UV protection oil with the tint in it, the oak tint. And again, this is not necessarily where you might put an oak stain, because it's sequoia, you might just want to leave it natural. But I just thought it was really helpful to see the difference between. And when you've got something that's sawn and planed, it absorbs differently as well. If I just try and get that into the camera. Now this is a fresh coat on here. So the other reason why I wanted to show you while that was fresh is because after 2 applications, I think your work is going to be much more like how it looks when you're just putting the first application of oil on, because it will dry back and it will flatten itself off. So I'll put that one out of the way. And then we've got a block or a big section of air dried oak here. It's a bit hefty, this. We've got a big section of air dried oak here, and you can clearly see that in the case of the oak, so this is, I've planed this end running into the sawn material, so this is how it looked. That's the bit which has got the 2 finishes on, and you can clearly see how it all works. Again, it absorbs more, it's darker, but you can see the richness of the grain. If I try and bring you that here. So that's, again, so they're much more similar, in fact. So the oak on the oak is much more similar. I'll just lay that out there. And you can see that the oil is a really kind of rich, lovely finish, and the stain is a little bit flatter and a bit more sort of even, if you like. The colour is more obliterating. And then the last bit I've got, which is a bit of a curveball, but this is a piece of cedar of Lebanon, and it's not dissimilar to, say, Western red cedar, what we use for cladding and that sort of stuff. But again, I've done a similar thing. We've got the stained side and we've got the oil side. So this is the stain, the natural oil wood stain in the oak. And that side is the UV protection oil with the oak tint. And I absolutely love this one, the UV protection oil. And I think to myself, as a product, comparing the two, now I've tried them, now I've had them out the can and seen what they're both doing, that for me as a timber lover and as someone who really, you know, loves a nice finish, I think that is absolutely amazing. I can't wait to try some of the other tints on some of these materials. And I think if you're embarking on buying expensive materials, doing a large job, for example, here in my summer house, parts of the ceiling are going to be cladded, and because it's going to be in a high moisture area, there's like an indoor pool, small pool, we need to make sure that we treat it with an oil or something like that, which is going to deal with the moisture, the high levels of moisture that the dehumidification doesn't deal with. I'm going to show you a classic example of where I'd reach for this product at my house. I'm going to show you that right now. So these are my front doors. I made these front doors. These are made in Sapele, and you can see at this time of day they get absolutely baked, or at least half of them get baked, and as the sun comes down, in fact more of them take on that sun. This is really where you're going to need that UV protection, because if you've got an oak front door, for example, and it was factory finished, or you've put varnish on it, I know what you're going to say. It's all gone silver, it's flaky, it's patchy. It's the sun, it's the rain. You really need something which is going to be rich, bed itself into the timber, give you that UV protection that you want, and that is the kind of finish that you can expect. So I hope you've enjoyed my comparison of those products. I'm looking forward to getting on with that cladding now and getting it all beautifully finished. Keep checking back, because sometime in the future I'll probably show you that cladding job done.